Hey, Mike, what do Kelly Slater and PT have in common?
I don't know. They're both world champs?
Nope, they both own Endless Summer box set.
Oh my God, rad. You guys, you can get it too. The link's in the show notes. Hey guys, this is Mike here at the QuiverCast. Check out this interview I did with the movie director and the writer for Big Wave Guardians. It's about a small group of heroes on the North Shore of Hawaii. This movie will be premiering at the Oceanside International Film Festival Friday, February 24th at 7 p.m. Get your tickets at oceansidefilm.org via events.com. I'll see you all there. Hello, everybody. This is Mike here with the QuiverCast. And we have two very special guests from the movie Big Wave Guardians. We have Jim Kempton, who wrote the movie, and we have Luke Stirtz. First off, the movie's excellent. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
It was really good. Let's start with you, Jim.
All right.
Where did you get the idea to write this?
So we'll start even further back than that. Where did we start with this?
Okay.
A bunch of friends in San Clemente sort of got together, and I got a call to come with them. And it was a group of guys that had known each other a long time and wanted to do a series on surfing that was a little different from a surf movie, and told stories that hadn't been told, and also focused on different aspects of surfing that are normally there, which is either competition or a surf star or a travel to a particular place, right? That's generally what you have in a surf movie. And it's, it's not plot oriented or character driven. It's more surfing, and that's totally great, Yeah, right. But we wanted to try to do something where we got into the characters of the people that were surfers and the surfers today. Our first one actually that we did before we did Big Wave Guardians was one about Beach Road, the birth of the surf industry. And it had John Severson, who started Surfer Magazine, and Bruce Brown, who did Endless Summer, the Hoffman brothers, who started the fabrics that everybody made the clothes from, Hobie Alter, and then Gordon Clark from Clark Foam.
Yeah.
And all those guys were living on this little stretch of beach. And so we just thought it was the middle of COVID. So everybody was kind of didn't really have anything else they had to do. And so we just thought, well, this will be a great place. We'll shoot on Beach Road, and Beach Road will be our first story. Cool. So, I kind of wrote a treatment for it, and we looked at it, and it wasn't everybody who liked my treatment. It was that everybody understood the story so well that we all liked it. We had all been part of that a little bit, but living in San Clemente and just being in the surf industry for so long. So we started bringing people in to interview, and it was great because, Beach Road is very isolated. So there wasn't sound problems, and and people would come there even though it was COVID because it was relatively, there's nothing else around that they had to worry about. And we made that movie, and we kind of decided that wasn't what we wanted to open the series with. Okay. Because it, for want of a better word, I'd say to people, in Hollywood terms, it didn't have a car chase and it didn't have a shootout. Okay. Right? Yeah. And so everyone said, well, let's go to Hawaii and do the North Shore. So we went to Hawaii to do the North Shore. And when we got back, I just said, you guys, the North Shore is like an 11-part series of its own. Yeah, of course. There's no way we're going to do that. And there's certainly no way we're going to do it without people that we didn't get as interviews then, and footage that we would have to get with them. But I said, we interviewed 23 people, and like 17 of them were lifeguards. Yeah. And the stories that they told us were just so mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. And I said, I think, that could be a movie through the lifeguard's perspective, looking at surfing on the North Shore and surfing in general through the eyes of lifeguards who basically sit there every day and probably have the front row seat and the best view. And they also know surfing intimately because they're looking for trouble, so they know when a wave, is hard to make or not because they might have to go save somebody.
Yeah.
And so we started out on that. And luckily our underwriter was really supportive of that. And so we started, and then Luke started editing it, and it was really amazing for me anyway to see the movie kind of come to life, because when you write a screenplay, it's not like writing a book. It's very different. And so it's really collaborative, right? Filmmaking is such a collaborative thing that, you've got a director who kind of has a vision of it. You have a film editor who's like, putting it together. You have an archivist who's pulling footage that you need to tell part of the story. You have rewrites of the story that's been written and narrative that you have to, fall in. So what was really cool about this movie is that I'm going to let Luke talk after that with it, but that Luke really made it come alive. He took what was just on paper and made it into something that was a truly character-driven, dramatic film.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Regular person's terms, it kind of wrote itself maybe a little, not necessarily.
Yeah, I think
taking nothing away from you, but
there was so much good. Yeah. And that the other part about the collaboration aspect of it is because you're making a documentary, you're interviewing people.
Yeah.
So it has to do with getting the story out of them, because they essentially can tell the story if you're good at bringing out with them. Some people clam up, some people have a hard time, but once you get them to open up and to talk and to tell the story, then, the editor and the director can just take that and run with it and build really, really great pieces that just kind of flow together.
Yeah. So Luke, how was coming on this project?
Oh, it was awesome. I kind of got connected because before this project, I was working on a film with Dana Brown.
Okay, yeah.
He did like Step Into Liquid and Dust to Glory of Baja Race. Yes. Yeah. And his dad is Bruce Brown.
Of course.
So I got connected through just like serendipity to get to work with him on that film about his dad. It was basically this film about Bruce and really about his life. So that was a really awesome experience, and I learned a lot working with him. And that's how I met Jim and Marty, who's the EP that made this whole series happen. So that's kind of how I got connected.
Let's talk about the film a little bit. So obviously with the name, we can assume what the movie's about. Lifeguards, right? At North Shore.
Yes.
I'd say it's a tribute to lifeguards everywhere.
There you go.
But like Luke was saying, one of the things that, Marty said that really stuck in my head was, there's a lifeguard in every town in America at a swimming pool or at a beach or, at a lake. And those guys are the heroes. And these guys on the North Shore are those guys' heroes.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're the top of the food chain. They're the guys that are they're the elite. They're the Green Berets. They're the
the heavy
SEALs, right?
Yeah, due to the heavy water.
And so that was, I think, something that we began to realize more and more as we started. And then on top of that, I think, there was a lot of background that you kind of have to tell about the North Shore because
which was great the way you guys did it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, Hawaii is such a cultural legacy.
Of course.
And you can't really leave that kind of stuff out and just sort of start somewhere. You almost always have to like tell a little background to it. That was a really cool thing that we were able to do as well.
With that being said, you guys kind of do this this nice flow where you kind of tell today and then go backwards. Like with, let's say, like even the Duke, like how it kind of all started.
Yeah.
How did that flow happen? Was that you, Luke?
That was kind of like some of the format for the whole series.
Okay.
So we wanted to tell like the story of surfing, but through these stories, like I think a lot of times surfing gets told just like the surface thing, you know,
Right,
it's just
right.
like what we see, but really there's all these stories and depth underneath. And I think that was some of the vision for the series. So that was kind of pre-built into it. And then it was like, all right, we want to do this lifeguards one. Well, how do we like build that into this? And for one reason why we wanted to do the lifeguard thing so much is because no one had really ever done
Right.
it
That's-
on
I
that
did-
scale, on a feature length documentary type of thing. So that was really appealing. And there's just so much history and depth, especially in Hawaii.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so that's kind of, it just naturally got built like that.
So what I noticed from the movie too is the surfers you interviewed. First off, a lot of the lifeguards are surfers, or probably most of them are surfers themselves.
Yeah.
They may not get in the magazines, but what I did notice is all the pro surfers and all the surfers, the visiting surfers and so forth, they all respect these guys.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yep.
Like pure respect.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think there's an element of, it's like surfing can sometimes be self-centered, and
Yeah.
and with all these lifeguards, it's like the antithesis of that, because they're out there looking out for other people. So there's I mean, at least from my perspective, that like just creates respect, because you know they're not doing anything for themselves. They're just out there looking out for other people, and then getting to surf when they can, you know.
Well, I would kind of almost, I'll say it this way. In the movie, they talk about, like, we have the best job in the world.
Right.
Look at the view we have.
Exactly.
Look at where we're sitting. Look where we're standing daily.
Yeah.
At the same time, shit can happen instantly. I'm sure in their, I don't even know how they would do it, but they have to change gears.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everything changes really quickly for them.
Yeah.
And
So one of the things that you were talking, you mentioned Roy Russell, and
Yeah.
I remember the very first time that I met Roy, I just become the editor of Surfer,
Okay.
and I went over to Hawaii, and I met with Rory, and my question to everybody was, what do you think the audience wants? What do they want? And a lot of people said other things, but Rory just immediately said, they want the stories, man. They want the stories. And the stories are about the characters.
Okay.
And the characters are what I think surfing really kind of stands apart a lot. They're not just athletes, you know what I mean, that play on a team.
Yeah.
They're individual characters. And one of the things that I think Luke really was able to do in this movie is bring out these characters and the
Yes,
relationship that they
100%.
all have with one another, or, you know, sons, or,
Right.
you know, old friends, or, you know, their fathers, and have them, you see that. And I think that's a real powerful part of the movie.
Yeah. Like Jose Angel. Yeah, you guys bring it up and kind of tell him who he was. A lot of us probably don't know who he is, maybe, possibly. And then you have his son, who's one of the elite guys on the North Shore.
Yeah.
And you told the story well. And it was, I would have never known who that guy is. But now you really see, you see his family, you see Jose's wife. You kind of just, you get a feel of what their life is like, I guess,
Yeah.
a little bit. So,
Yeah.
There's a lot of those underground legends out there, you know. That's what Jamie O'Brien in the film says. Like, you know, he's the underground legend of the North Shore, the legend that not as many people knew about, but everyone that lives there knows who he is. You know, I think there's a lot of those types of people in the ocean community that contributed a lot to ocean safety and just the stories of surfing.
yeah. Another thing I think you guys really told well was, when you think of lifeguards, you kind of think of, maybe, I don't know, I guess what comes to mind is maybe Baywatch, or, you know, they're having, you know,
Yeah.
this is real life. What you guys are telling, these men and women are putting their lives on the line to watch us
Right.
paddle out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even the tourists, they talk about the tourists coming in and just getting swept out to sea. How gnarly.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you guys were able to tell that message of, this is real life.
Yeah.
One of the really cool things about the North Shore, and about surfing in general, really, compared to other sports, is it seems like almost every wave gets recorded. Like every incident gets recorded. So we had got
Yeah.
footage of like life and death rescues that you would never get in another sort of sport or something, because
Right.
there wouldn't be someone with a camera just sitting there, watching that all the time. So we were also able to have footage that Luke was able to take and put in the film that was real time. Like, these guys are talking about it and you're watching what they're saying as it comes on, not a recreation, but the actual day that it happened. And that also lends a lot of, I think, edge of your seat kind of drama to the, to watching the movie.
Right. So that's actually a good question I would like to ask is, how did you guys find this footage? Did you guys have to like search for this?
Well, we caught some of
Some
the
of it was your
incidents,
guys'
but then a lot of it was like getting connected with filmmakers on the North Shore, who our archival producer helped do that. Connect us with a lot of those filmers. They're out there every day, so if something happens, one of them's going to probably get some of that. So they helped a lot with that. A lot of our licensors.
Okay. And then how hard was it for you, Luke, to see what you were going to use and not use in the film?
That's the challenge, and that's the
Do you have to lay it all out there?
Oh yeah,
and look at it all and like, okay, this doesn't really fit. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, that's why. I mean, it's
The writer,
exactly.
Jim.
Like you get lost in it because there's
I
so
bet,
much,
100%,
and
yeah.
I don't know what our shooting ratio was, but it was certainly like way more than 10-1. If you're shooting 10 minutes, 1 minute is way, I don't know what it was, but so there's a lot to sift through. And
a lot.
It's just it's figuring out how to pick the things that are going to tell the story well. And that's the hardest part, is that if something doesn't end up in the film, it doesn't mean it's not interesting or it wasn't a good story. It's just like, does it emphasize the story we're trying to tell,
You really do get on a line that is an arc in a story. And if you go off on a tangent, you lose that narrative drive, right? And so I think Luke is really good at staying on subject, even if he sometimes, feels overwhelmed by it. I think he actually almost works with that, because I know just from editing at Surfer Magazine, like what we always used to say is the hardest part is what you leave out.
Right? Exactly.
There's like 10 shots here that could be the cover, and only one of them is going to be on the cover.
Yes.
And there's 10 cover shots sitting in front of you.
Yeah.
So the hardest part is, what 9 of them aren't you going to use?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
And how long was that process, Luke? Did it take you? Was it?
So we basically did this film in like 6 months.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous.
That's crazy.
There was a deadline, and we were just grinding to make it happen. So
A lot less sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
The least sleep I've ever had.
So do you guys all come in collaborating together once Luke, you, Jim?
So
how does that work?
How that sort of works is that Luke will look at what I had written,
Okay.
and he'll kind of assemble from that, and then he'll say, I need you to make a transition from this scene to this scene. Or what should go here according to what the story we're doing. Most of the time he came up with that on his own. By that, I mean, he knows the story he wanted to tell, and even created some pieces of it that are real dramatic, like at the end where you have all the people thanking the lifeguards.
Yeah.
Like, that was totally Luke's idea, and it was super effective, and there are other ones like that I can't think of right off the top of my head, but like that. So it's kind of like a back and forth. You write a little bit, and then you figure out what needs to be narrative and what you've actually got that people are saying that are in the movie. That the people who you've interviewed, they, as you know, basically tell the story, but a lot of times they won't get you to the next scene, so you need those bridges. And that's where, when Luke would work that out, then we'd write a bridge to that, a transition, and then you continue to follow the same story arc.
Okay. A question to you is, editing for Surfer Magazine and being involved in this movie, how different are they? Or are they relatively the same? Just the editing.
Yeah. The editing,
what to cut out
the editing is similar, I think, because at that stage you kind of know what you're looking for.
Okay.
the difference between screenwriting and writing and writing is very different, because you really need the director to like see the vision and make it happen.
Okay.
It's like, if you look at it on paper, it sounds almost stupid.
Okay. So with everything falling in place and you guys meeting each other, how did you know? Was it your choice that Luke was the guy, or how did that decision come made?
That was pretty much a unanimous decision about Luke, just because we all could see his talent, and we all really got along with him. But particularly, I think Luke and I just hit it off. We're real kindred brains in a way.
Okay.
And both of us are real collaborative. I think we're not, it's got to be my way, or this is what I want, or, anything like that. So the more we did that, the easier it became to do that.
Yeah.
But as far as, at the end of the day, everyone said Luke should be the director on this movie, because he's basically done it, and so that's how that came to be. Am I right, Luke? I mean, am I
No, you tell me.
Am I overstating you?
Another thing I noticed, the role of a lifeguard. You guys kind of told. I don't even know if the general public even understands what a lifeguard does.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of the goal with the film. I mean, I think our first and foremost goal was this story would be something that lifeguards would be proud that it was in the world, know? And I think you're totally right. Most people don't really know what lifeguards do, especially the ones that are like in the ocean where there's actual
real hazards.
Exactly. They're another first responder. They're
100%,
and especially when you think like we're talking about the rescues that are in the movie, we are cutting around things that like you don't want to see that. Like it's real stuff. And they, just like any other first responder, they go home and they might have seen something that day that was really heavy, and they have to process that and work with that, just like a paramedic would, or a fireman, or whatever. So yeah, that was the goal with the movie, to at least, I hope people that see it can kind of get a better sense of like, what they do.
The other thing I took away from this movie that was very important to me was, I think you stated earlier in the conversation, Jim, we get surf movies. We want to see, there's 3 storylines or whatever that basic surf movies follow. This movie can be seen in Middle America and they would understand.
Yeah.
Where like maybe most surf movies aren't relatable to a guy in Wisconsin or someone in Louisiana or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that was part of also the goal, because we ultimately wanted this to get on a platform, a Hulu or someone. And so one part of the thinking on this always was not to talk over the heads of people who don't know. And that's something I used to struggle with at Surfer. With people would always ask, who's the audience and what do who are you writing to? And I would always say, people read for 2 reasons, or they watch the movie for 2 reasons. They watch for information and they watch for confirmation. So you never want to take the guy who knows a whole lot about it and like make him feel like this is,
bored.
101. You know what I mean? Like I know all this
and
stuff.
You got,
right. You want him to confirm. You want him to go, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Just like how you were saying, that I can tell you had confirmation. You were going, I know that's right. That's exactly how it goes down. I'm glad someone nailed that. At the same time, you don't want to leave a person out to be so elitist, which the surfing industry, the surfers do this all the time, right? That's what we do because it's our little tribe. Right.
It's true.
And so, that's okay, but not if you're trying to reach the other audience. Then you have to like make sure that you also include them and bring them into the story so they can understand what's going on without being simplistic in a way that is going to bore the audience that knows all about it.
Okay. So that was the thought you had when this whole project even started, just when you started writing. I want this for everyone to understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going back to Duke or to Jose or Eddie. Of course, you guys didn't leave Eddie out. So some of those guys, the Duke, of course, and Eddie, I think even Middle America guys may have heard of the Eddie Acau, but they may not have heard of the Jose or the Buffalo or the. Right. These guys, surfers have heard of them or read them in the magazine, but it's kind of cool. You guys kind of told the stories of guys that aren't as well known.
Yeah. And funnily enough, in that way too, it's like when you look at the story overall, there are people you just can't leave out, even if people, some know about them and some don't, but it doesn't matter. You have to and believe me, there are 100 more deserving people that didn't get in, right? It's the same thing, that cutting room floor, man.
I was going to say, you're looking at
amazing cats that did not get in there, but deserve it. That you only have 90 minutes to tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we just hope that we told this broader story that hopefully, lifeguards that maybe they're not mentioned in the film, but it's this kind of archetypal story about lifeguards that it's if you're a lifeguard, you can relate to the story,
If you're a lifeguard, if you're a surfer, if you're
an ocean person,
even if you're not,
even if you're not, there's there's a human story in it that I think everybody can relate to.
Yeah,
I think we all know what the paramedics do. We all know what the firemen or the cops, the police do. But how many people actually think, what has that guy seen in the lifeguard tower?
Right.
Has he? And you guys kind of said, these guys see shit too.
Oh, yeah.
It's not all sun and palm trees.
No.
Yeah.
Especially there.
Yeah, especially
most of
on the North Shore.
Yeah. Where the...
Was it always going to be the North Shore?
The story?
Yeah.
Well, we went to the North Shore to shoot it as the idea that that's where we're going to find our car chases and our shootouts,
gotcha.
right? That's where the excitement, the big waves, and to a certain extent, a lot of the really great characters. Because once you reach a certain level of ability in surfing, a lot of those people go to Hawaii. They may not live there always, but Hawaii is the proving ground. It still is the proving ground for the whole world in terms of, great surfers and great surfing and performance. And so we knew the characters there. I mean, I've been writing about them for longer than I can wish to remember, but they're there. And so we knew that we would get good stories from it. We would get the drama. We would get the craziness. We would get the excitement. We would get the characters. And we just didn't know which ones there were because it's way too big a story to tell. It's that's a history of the Roman Empire or something, Okay. And so once we kind of discovered that we had that focus point, then we could go to town.
Did you have a list of guys and gals that you wanted to speak to? These are the people?
Yeah. Okay. And that's what's funny too, is that I just made a list of the people that I thought would give us the most information.
Okay.
And when we were done, what I realized is that a lot of them were lifeguards because they're the ones that I know have seen it all, right? They're the guys. A lot of other people are just too busy doing their thing. But lifeguards, they're observers. They're constant observers. So there were a lot of those that, were in the list. And then suddenly we realized that their stories were more interesting than the ones we'd asked them about.
Okay. And then one more question about that is, how did you approach them? Were they all like, oh yeah? Or were some of them kind of standoffish and you had to talk them into it?
A lot of the people I knew.
Yeah.
And
so you had a relationship with them.
And most people on the North Shore, they want to speak because they want the story to be told right. Because they're so used to people just not bothering to talk to them.
Like and North Shore, the movie or something.
Yeah, and just
cheesy.
making it up as they go along, right? So I think most people like the idea of being able to make sure their perspective is heard.
And they all want to support the lifeguards. I need to, if we were making another type of surf thing, they might have more hesitant, but we're we're making a thing about lifeguards. Everybody's like, oh yeah, let me talk about them because they should get all the credit and gratitude that we can give them,
Yeah. And then actually the one thing I did find kind of funny, there's a few moments here and there. I won't say the movie's a comedy at all, but there's a few funny moments there.
Right.
When,
thank God.
Which reminded me of the 60s surf movies,
right.
All those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's another thing one of the things that the similarity between a magazine and a movie is there's pacing is a big part of it. So it's not only just keeping on the storyline and keeping the narrative going, but it's also, you can't be on the edge of your seat the whole movie.
Yeah.
And you can't be laughing the whole movie and you can't be screaming the whole movie. There's pacing. You have to build to things. And, Luke I don't want to brag on him too hard, but he has a natural ability to understand that. And so those funny parts are right where they need to be in my mind. You know what I mean? mean, and what I love is we go to these, I can see the audience laughing, like they get it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you watch a movie and like, it just goes right by, you know,
Yeah.
but it's really great when you see that they got it, you know, they laugh.
And it comes out of left field kind of too. You don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. Oh, I like the part where you guys made it clear how we don't all live in different places. We're all connected to the ocean.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the, you know, Brian Kilana, one of our main characters. That's, he says that all the time. And that's kind of become the mantra of Bragg, that we're not divided by land, we're connected by water. And I think that's really on a deeper level. That's what the movie's about, is it's unity and community. And I think that's evidenced by, you go to Pipeline, which is like one of the gnarliest waves in the world, and probably the most competitive wave in the world, where there's a lot of people out there and everyone wants to get a wave, and it's dangerous, but it's just like a grind. And when someone goes down and gets hurt, the entire lineup stops. Everyone is trying to help the person. The lifeguards are getting it. And that's this moment that just illustrates, like, you know, our humanity when it comes down to survival.
That's a good point, yeah.
It's just like no one wants each other to get hurt. And I think that's really where you see what the movie's about.
Well said, because, very competitive Pipeline. The Scion part.
So Scion's story really is kind of like the impetus for how Bragg started.
Yeah, okay.
So that was kind of like one of the turning points of, you'll see in the film, it was just like, you know, Healy and Greg Long are talking about this, and Daniel Russo, who's one of the camera guys in the film, who was also a very close friend of Scion. It was like, you know, before that incident and some other people that had passed in those years, there was a lot of like not thinking about the other people that are out there. It was like, we want to get to the spot, and if there's less people there, great. If their jet ski breaks down, great. And I think some of those incidents just became the turning point of like, we need to think about this more as like a group, that we're all in this together, and it's really about keeping everyone safe. And if everyone knows how to like be prepared to help someone in a high stakes situation, then that's just going to raise the statistic of people coming home at the end of the day, you know,
back to your community.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
You know, like surfers are selfish. At the end of the day, we're really about community.
About a tribe.
A tribe.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that I think we just are appreciative of is this was a group of people that really were disparate, you know, not like all next door best buddies, just people that kind of came together. And we were really lucky that I feel like each one of the people involved kind of contributed in their way. And that was kind of the idea that, you know, we picked. But like, for instance, our producer, you know, our executive producer, Marty, he stepped up to make this movie, and it wouldn't have gotten made.
Okay.
You know, ideas are a dime a dozen, right?
Yeah.
And you can have the greatest book in the world, and if you don't have a publisher, you ain't going to get that book out. You know, if you don't have a magazine stand, it doesn't matter how good your magazine is if nobody sees it, right? And movies are not only, you know, more difficult in that sense, though they're also more expensive, and they're also have a stronger competition. You know, to have someone that backed us and contributed to it. I mean, you know, it wasn't just here's the money. It was like, well, what about this? Don't forget about this important part, and just contributing and being part of the whole team. All of us, I think, were able to do that. And it made, I think, the movie as effective as it is.
Did it help that Marty's a surfer too?
Oh, we wouldn't have done it with someone else.
Yeah. He was an Eddie invite, so he
surfed in the Eddie 8 times.
Wow, yeah.
So
as an invite.
He's seen what's happened, so he was just equipped to know like if we were doing it right, you know, because he'd witnessed it. So he's like, that's how it went.
Okay. He was like a sounding board,
right?
Like, you know, he'd call things out when he thought they were BS. You know, not that we had done them, but just like in particular, when someone would make a comment about something, and he'd just roll his eyes and, you know, and like say, I was out there that day. You know,
who did the interviews to the lifeguards? Who was the
collective?
It was a collective. It was a collective. It just depended on what part we were doing. Like at the end, Luke was doing a lot of the interviews because he'd already made the movie kind of, and what he needed was I could either write a narration or he could get them to say it. And in some cases it was better to do it that way, which, so he did a lot of the interviews at the end of the show just to like complete, the story, so to speak. But I started with it because I knew a lot of the people that we needed to have initially. Yeah. But then we had to get all these other lifeguards, you know? So it was, it was a mix.
Okay. There was also a lot of footage license partners. So there's footage from all sorts of people.
Yeah, yeah. Like when Brian was getting interviewed, I don't know what year that was, but I'm guessing the late 80s, early 90s or
on
something.
Television. Yeah, right.
Like that's back to my question a little way earlier. Was that hard to find, or did you go right to the TV station and they're like, hell yeah, here?
No, we did not go to that. Actually came later. It was more like the beginning phase, just sifting through like the internet of like who could we find?
Literally the internet?
Yeah, like what could we find on this person? Crazy. And our archival producer Wyatt was integral in that process. Wow. So a lot of this searching for what we could find on certain characters that we knew were going to be in the movie.
Okay. Wow, that seems like a crazy amount of work. You talking about this is going to be an ongoing series? Is that possibly what's going to happen?
Well, we hope. One of the things about industry, the film industry has changed dramatically, or I should say, the entertainment industry from the visual standpoint. Not as many people are going to movies on at theaters. Yeah. And there's so much great television now that is of equal quality in every way, to a movie that you might see on the big screen. And so they're a lot more interested in series now than they used to be, because a series is something that for a platform, for a brand, they only have to sell it once. They can sell one movie once, or they can sell 8 movies once. Yeah. So if they've got a series, then they're promoting like 8 hours or whatever of, production as opposed to 1 hour of it. And that makes it a lot more viable for them. So they love the idea of having it because it also keeps the audience coming back, to them. So it's like a sequel. And why do they do 8 Batmans? Because people keep coming back to see it, right? So
as they are.
Yeah, so like a real advantage for us, because that's what we'd always envisioned it being.
That's still in we'll wait and see kind of mode.
Yeah, they seem interested in the people that we've talked to. Seem interested in a series.
Perfect. I hope you guys do.
Yeah, us too.
So my question to you is, do you think you could have been like a North Shore lifeguard?
After seeing what they did, I would have had to prepare my whole life to be a North Shore lifeguard. So could I now? No.
No. What about you, Jim?
Yeah, I can't. There's so many aspects to a lifeguard that aren't in my personality. Like patience and just sheer grittiness, like I'm going to save this person no matter what. Like you hear in the movie when Clyde said it, and it's not just Clyde, it's every lifeguard. They just go, we get out there, man, we're not going to let go. Yeah. And that's just something that's got to be in their psyche from the start. And if you don't have that, you're not going to be a lifeguard.
Yeah. Well, wow. One more thing, Jim. Where did they find the footage of you in there?
Yeah. Well, that we filmed me because we couldn't find anybody else to say those words. They said, why write it when you can talk it?
Yeah. Okay. So you guys and your movie, will you guys be there?
Yeah.
For the opening or for the premiere, or what do they call that at the film festival?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a premiere in the sense of it, like, for the festival itself,
On February 24th, which is a Friday, you guys will be playing at 7:30ish at the Brooks Theater right down the street here.
At the Brooks Theater right on Coast Highway.
Can't miss it.
And, it's inexpensive. You can get tickets real easy. It's the Oceanside International Film Festival. Guys are great. They've done a really great job. They're really interested in the whole ocean experience and particularly surfing. They always pick last year they did the 20th anniversary of Blue Crush.
Yeah.
And had all the producers and directors and writers there for that.
Okay.
And we're going to have like a little pre-party in the little room right next to the Brooks Theater there. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the California Reserve Museum is going to decorate it and host it and stuff.
So
and,
that's going to be rad.
everybody's going to come in, and Luke will be there, and the producer will be there, Marty will be there.
Okay.
And it'll be super fun. And then the movie's going to start around 7 something.
Yeah. So everyone, the tickets are easily found on the internet at the Oceanside International Film Festival. So do not miss that.
You could get them on the website, I think, too,
Yeah.
or they'll point you to it. Just bigwaveguardians.com.
Yeah. And that's the last show on Friday night, the last movie. But I am so excited to see it on the big screen.
Yeah.
And the Brooks Theater is kind of a rad theater too.
It is. It only holds 200 people. So if you want to get a ticket, people should get it early.
Yeah.
I know one last thing, and I'm stealing Luke's thunder here on this, but we invite lifeguards to come.
Oh, rad.
And we always ask them to stand, and they usually get a standing ovation afterwards. And that's a really cool thing, that the lifeguards get to feel the love, you know what I mean? And be appreciated when sometimes they risk their lives and nobody even seems to notice, you know? So that's a cool thing. People will dig it if they come.
All right, everybody. This is Mike, Jim, and Luke, and we are out of here. Thank you for joining us.
100-foot out choke food, 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. 100-foot out choke food, 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. You boo on my didgeridoo. They calling me Duke, I'm stacking the loot. I'm ripping your chick in the coop. She grabbing a hold of my leggy. They jelly, they Gucci my weddy. The fridge of Giuseppe, the chain is so heavy, she think that I'm charging the Eddie. 100-foot out choke food, 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. 100-foot out choke food, 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. Surf trap, I'm stacking that money. Cash. Your shorts a red Ferrari. He starts to calling me Dundee. Diamonds are surfing McFlurry. She want me to teach her to surf. Splash. I'm pulling up, ripping the verse. I'm leaving these kooks in the hearse. They get moved 100 foot on their head, they get work. 100 foot out choke food. 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. 100 foot out choke food. 100 racks on a surf dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. You calling me Duke, I'm stacking the loot. I'm ripping your chick in the coop. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. They calling me Duke, I'm stacking the loot. I'm ripping your chick in the coop.
Hey, you guys, Endless Summer box set. This thing is legit. It's authentic, numbered certificate in it. It has a 5-frame film strip from the original print. You will literally own a piece of history. It has a specially minted bronze medallion. Dude, that thing's sick. Okay, there's so much more here. Go to the show notes. There's a link on there. Go check this piece of history out. This thing's rad. Seriously. Smithsonian American History Museum has it. It took 4 years of research with 3.5 in production, all hand assembled. This thing's rad. So much to this awesome box set. Remastered DVD, sharper images than the original film, but dude, this thing's so sick. Link in the show notes.